You're welcome, and thank you for welcoming us, Gunhild Stordelin and Johan Rockström and everyone who's putting the Eat Food Forum together. I cannot think of a more important issue. And National Geographic, as you'll see, has been dedicating itself to this issue now for a while. And I wanted to start with a short video which pulls together a lot of what National Geographic is about to try to address this issue. Thank you. So at National Geographic, we believe in the power of science, exploration, storytelling to change the world. We reach over 500 million people through our media each and every day and every week. It's a big global audience, and at the core of this is exploration. And it's people like Matthias Klum, who is here from Sweden, who does so much as a National Geographic Fellow to change the world. And our friends from the Postal Code Lottery here in Sweden who have helped us create an exploration fund locally to grant to local Nordic recipients who are changing the world through science and exploration. It's that core that focuses on the great exploration issues of our time. So we asked ourselves, why food now? And we've dedicated over the last couple of years an unparalleled amount of editorial resources to tell the story of food, illuminate the issues around food, get people talking about the future of food. Why now? And of course, you know that we see it as an extension of a dialogue we've had with our readers about critical issues for a long time, such as global warming. This was an issue from over 10 years ago. Melting ice caps, global energy trade-offs, water availability, extreme weather, and of course, population growth. We're certainly not new to food. This was a cover story that we had on soil just a few years ago. And we have realized that personalizing this issue drives it home a lot more for people. And you can't personalize this more than focusing on farmers around the world who, of course, have a different special lens on their daily work and their relationship to the land around the world. These beautiful pictures from Jim Richardson, which I think you've been watching throughout the entire event here and you'll be seeing tomorrow as well, are a tribute to farmers around the world who we have to remember as we debate these critical issues. And of course, the land that feeds our world is a world that is changing. We have an ever-growing population to feed. In 1900, you've seen these numbers. The global population was about 1.6 billion. By 2000, 100 years later, 6.1 billion. In 2013, 7.1. And some people estimate that by 2050, it will be 9.6 billion. So it inspired us to ask a critical question. How are we going to feed 9.6 billion people? We reported that we made some observations. We eat better, and we eat higher on the food chain. In many countries, of course, machines are now doing the plowing and the picking, and synthetic nitrogen fertilizers are used to increase crop yields in many places. We're also eating more meat globally, and grain is used more and more to feed the animals desired by our increasingly affluent world. And this is why we're using our content platforms to address food now. Melting ice, a growing population, changing eating habits, all things that affect agriculture and human survival. For all of these reasons, National Geographic is trying to talk about food now and starting a global conversation about this with the millions of people who aren't necessarily policy people or people who work in the industries who were represented here today. This is about the human reaction of worrying about the future of our planet, but also capturing that very human emotion of wonder, which is what National Geographic has stood for 127 years. Discovery and exploration and the possible. That's also what human beings need to do to think about and create solutions to these crises as they appear. So last year we started a conversation with our readers on multiple platforms, our magazine, our digital properties, our social media channels, on cable. We had a wonderful show, Eat the Story of Food, that Marcus Samuelsson was a star in. Thank you for that. We dedicated a website to food. Since we kicked off this series on food, we've engaged more than 6 million users just on this platform alone. We looked at food and agriculture through the lens of our fantastic photographers. And we used our cutting-edge imagery and mapping to illustrate pressing issues affecting food. Our mobile and social media platforms, we've got nearly 18 million followers on Instagram alone. We passed 1 billion likes 2 weeks ago. And this is for a 125-year-old enterprise because of the power of photography and the power of visual imagery to bring these issues home and bringing food into the home through new places, through mobile platforms, which are engaging more and more people. We were one of the 4 initial media organizations that Facebook has chosen to put up instant, organized media content, which comes on your Facebook page automatically now. We've covered the issue by trying to give a broader context, having things like a 5-step plan to feed the world, and the debate over the global food challenge, which we know has become too often too polarized. And the need to look at this as not an either-or proposition. We outlined some solutions, which include using existing farms and resources more efficiently, reducing waste, as I know many people in this room, including our National Geographic Emerging Explorer last year, Tristram Stewart here, have been pushing, and we gave him and his colleagues a voice in this important debate. Changing our diets. We talked about where our protein comes from and how today we produce more farmed fish than beef globally, and what resources it takes to feed these sources of protein. The more people understand, the more they can make informed decisions about their own food choices. We asked if Africa could actually be the next breadbasket. Sub-Saharan Africa's economic growth has been about 5% a year for the past decade. National debts are declining and peaceful elections being held with increasing frequency. The World Bank, donor countries are investing. Some experts believe Africa could not only better feed itself, but actually export food, earning much needed cash and helping to feed the world as well. We looked at how our eating habits have evolved and the plates from around the world, which this is kind of how dinner looks to various countries, a little bit different. We also looked at something important to remember, the joy of food. And we were able, in many ways to show how we celebrate food, how it brings us triumph, how it brings us together, and of course, nourishes us. That might have been my boyhood picture, I'm not sure. We also did some experiments. For example, we all went shopping one day in Manhattan. And this is a photograph, it's not a painting, even though it does sort of have that Flemish look. But what was cool about this is then we traced back where each of the items came from and what it took to ship them there. And this is a fantastic geography lesson for the classrooms. We looked at meals ready to eat from militaries around the world. This is the outside packaging. And then when we opened it up, wow, the Americans had things that were bright and crunchy. Big surprise. And the Italians had really delicious tomato-y kinds of things. Very different tastes and choices in just feeding our military. And we looked at food by the numbers. We looked at the number of female farmers around the world. Or edible insects, of course, another growing protein choice for many. So we're excited to bring all of you into this conversation. And I hope you can use our platform to talk and debate, not just among yourselves, but with the tens of millions of people who are connecting to National Geographic. This is not your grandfather's National Geographic anymore. This is a mobile, Facebooked, Instagram, iPadded National Geographic that creates a civic civil dialogue about the critical issues facing the future of food. You can access all of these on your iPad. And finally, to me, there is no more important issue than the one we're all gathered here in Stockholm to discuss the next 2 days. It's our civilization's very survival at stake. So thank you to EAT. Thank you for offering ideas and platforms and questions and answers and debates around this civic civil dialogue to change the world. Thank you so much.